How you doing, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Colin. My name is Colin Egglesfield. It is Monday, and again, it is time for another inspiring conversation with people that I love to bring on the show and just learn some insight, knowledge, and whatever it is else that they have to share, so that I can share it with my audience, and we can all live happier, more fulfilling, and better lives. You know, with everything that's going on in the world, it can be incredibly challenging and frustrating when we hit these roadblocks and feel like maybe we're in points in our lives where we know we are capable of doing more, and we just feel like sometimes we don't have the support or the encouragement to really step up into those self-identities that we feel excited about, feel nervous about. For me, it was becoming a professional actor. And it wasn't until I met some people who were actually doing it and who were actually professional actors where I actually started to learn from them and taking acting classes. And one of the things that's great about where we are at now in life is that, unlike any other period or any point in history, we have the ability to do incredible things. No longer do you have to ask permission to do things. Everyone is now using YouTube and all these amazing platforms, TikTok, Instagram, to be able to share with the world who we really are and to put out there into the world our message, our insight. And it is making it's making incredible impact in the world. And sometimes we just may feel like we just need a little support in actually making that happen. And tonight's guest is going to be sharing with us her experience on that journey, because she wrote a book, and I'm so proud to be sharing this with you because she's been working on this for over a year. And with her idea and her contribution, we met about this a little over a year ago. And with the help of my editor, Tracy Seeley, we'll be talking about her. Shannon and myself and Tracy have essentially brought this book to you guys now that it's available on Amazon. And we'll be talking about the title of the book and just why she wrote the book and the whole book writing process as well. But before that, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who came out last week for my Inspire retreat here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was an incredible weekend. We had almost 20 people at the retreat. And I just want to say, it's things like this that really make life so fulfilling, because we may have ideas of what we want to do in life. And for me, it's been being able to contribute and support people in fulfilling on what really matters most to them. And this is one of the ways that I get to do it. And inviting all these incredible people that came there. We had 6 guest speakers. We had a guest panel. I want to say a big shout out to Nicole Maiden, my PR person, lovely lady who has helped bring a lot of this together. And we're already working on our next retreat it looks like we're going to be doing one in around September. And then again, back here in Scottsdale around November. So I would love for you guys to come to the next one. We just had such a great time. We did yoga. We did an amazing hike. We did sound bowl healing. We had some incredible talks. And it was a great way for people who are wanting to become just public speakers and to get paid to get up onto stages and share their message. And so what I did was offered 6 spots for people to come up and speak to everyone at the retreat. And it was absolutely incredible. I'm so proud of everyone who got up and shared their message. And it was absolutely amazing to get to know a lot of the people that came there. We had amazing dinners, an incredible conversation. And just when we left the retreat, no one wanted to leave. It was just an amazing weekend. And I would highly encourage you guys to join or come to the next one. And then since then, I've just been on this high of making amazing things happen. I've got my 90-day Agile Artist Manifestation Planner that's coming out at the beginning of June. This is the follow-up to my book, Agile Artist. And this is a journal, or essentially a daily planner, where you get to write in every day all the things that will help support you in fulfilling on those dreams and those goals that most of the time we just kick down the road and think that we'll get to it someday. Someday I will write a book. Someday I'm going to take that trip to Italy. Someday I'm going to do whatever. And this 90-day planner will help make someday today. And it is a fun, creative, amazing way to integrate your mind, your body, your spirit in bringing all of who you are together into this one place where you get to write down every day what it is, what are the actionable steps that are going to help you fulfill on that dream and that goal. And the way this is designed is that we talk about what your ultimate scenario is, and then what is the self-identity that you need to step into, or the characteristics that you want to take on as this character or self-identity to be able to fulfill on that goal. Much like what we do as actors when we are researching and rehearsing and auditioning for a role, we take on the characteristics, we identify the objective and what the intention are, and then by fulfilling on that role as that character, you start to think about what are the characteristics and what are the values and the traits that would allow me to step into this role of world-class speaker or New York Times best-selling author. And if you start to think about what that looks like, you can start incorporating that in this daily planner. Helps you start to create and identify and incorporate these character traits into your daily life, so that over the 90 days, not only are you putting into place the actionable steps that will help you fulfill on the goals, but it's one thing to accomplish the goal. It's another thing to be able to step into that role that allows that goal to stick, because we have what's called an internal barometer about what we think we deserve and what we feel that we are worthy of receiving. And if your internal barometer is one that is feeling that you don't deserve certain things or you're not worthy, no matter what you receive, no matter what abundance you're going to be inviting into your life, if you don't internally believe that you deserve it, eventually it's going to go away. Similar to the statistic, I believe, is that most people who win the lottery, after about 7 years, the money that they won from the lottery, it's gone. Because much like our personal value barometer, a lot of people have a financial barometer on what they feel or what they believe internally they are worthy or deserving of a certain amount of money and a certain type of lifestyle. And so a lot of this stuff, I'm excited because we're actually going to be touching on some of this stuff tonight with my guest. And she's going to be sharing with us some of her insight and her knowledge about her book. But just want to say that at the end of this month and the beginning of June, that 90-day planner will be available, and I'll be talking more about that later. But that's not why we are here. Why we are here tonight is to talk about my next guest's adventures and how life has brought her to this point in where she's at, where she is now. She can proudly call herself an author. And for those of you out there who have an idea and you want to, you're thinking about writing a book, I'm excited that you're here, because if you're here, you can actually type in your comments and any questions that you may have about what it's like to write a book, and what are some of the challenges, what are some of the tips and insights that Shannon is going to be sharing with us tonight about how she was able to accomplish this feat that is not easy. And because it's more of a marathon than a sprint, at certain points along the journey, you kind of lose some momentum and lose some steam. So we're going to be talking to her about what kept her going and what was it that allowed her to fulfill on accomplishing this amazing feat, so that now you guys can read what she writes in her book. And again, it's available on Amazon. But I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about who Shannon is. And this is going to be interesting because Shannon is someone what we would call, and I'm not even sure what this is, but I'm excited to ask her exactly what her title really is, because for the past 2 decades, she's what we would call an expert in user experience research. And we have a lot in common in the sense that she's very curious about what motivates people and drives people and keeps them motivated. So this is the topic we're going to be talking about, on what actually allowed her to fulfill on writing this book and what kept her motivated. And over her professional journey, it has brought her around the world. And so she's had quite a bit of experience in meeting people from all different walks of life and just understanding different personality types. And again, what motivates people to do what they do and keep them connected to their bigger aspirations in life. And through all of this, she's been raising a beautiful young daughter, and she's going to be sharing with us her love for running. I'm an avid runner, and Shannon is an avid runner, and a lot of what she talks about in her book is a metaphor of how running is similar to the challenges that we may face in life. And the title of her book, it's called It's Nothing But Pavement. And she is also into physical fitness in terms of yoga and some other health and wellness things that we're going to be talking about. And she currently lives in Dallas. And as a writer, Shannon's ultimate goal is to leave her readers and listeners feeling seen, safe, and empowered. She aspires to challenge comfort and instill confidence through her words, aiding others in navigating life with greater conviction and assurance. So, ladies and gents, without further ado, let us bring to the stage Miss Shannon Graf. How you doing, Shannon?
Hello, Colin. How are you? I'm well. Thank you. Thanks for having me
Awesome to see you. And congratulations, you wrote a book.
I'm a published author. Thank you.
So I've got to get your name on here. There we go. Miss Shannon Graf. And the name of your book is It's Nothing But Pavement.
Yes.
Now available on Amazon, right?
It is. Yeah, ebook and paperback. So if you're an electronic reader, we've got you covered.
Awesome. Awesome. So Shannon, you and I have known each other for about, 2 years now?
Going on 3.
Going on 3?
Yeah.
That's right, because you were at my my first Inspire
Was in Chicago.
And so as someone who has been working in the field of personal and professional development and as a user experience research expert, tell us a little bit about your background and what is it that motivated you to write this book and share your experiences with the world.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me on. I'm excited to share a little bit about how I got here, how I became a published author. So talking about my profession, user experience research was not something I was even aware of in college. I thought I was going to either be a lawyer or a teacher. After my first year of student teaching, I realized that the classroom was probably not for the long haul. So I eventually figured out what that teaching bug was, and I teach yoga now instead. So rather than being in a classroom, I like to share my love of yoga. But I did kind of have a panic moment during my senior year in college of not knowing really what was next. And here I am talking about that in my book. But they basically just said, what do you like and what are you good at? And no one had ever asked me that before. Thought, I have this path I'm on. I'm supposed to do this thing. I was told the business degree is where the jobs come from.
Yeah. Shannon, who asked you that question?
Yeah, great question. We have a career center. I am an Aggie for the Texas Aggies in the room. I went to Texas A&M, and we have an amazing career center. And I went to my advisor in a panic, deer in headlights. I have 1 semester left, and I don't know what I want to do with my life. I feel like a lot of people could probably relate to that. I definitely experienced that. Yeah. So they said, they actually looked at some internships that kind of pointed my head in a completely different direction. I had my sights on this path. Here we go in the book a little bit. And, asking me, well, what do you like and what are you good at? It was that simple. And they found me an internship in this budding industry called user experience, more specifically that kind of tapped into the cognitive psychology part of my degree. And so I took a summer internship. And so for 3 months, I worked with a company actually back here in Dallas, and they called me on graduation day and hired me on the spot. And I stayed there for 5 years. And that's where I got my kind of feet wet, but then started traveling globally for the first time in my life in my 20s, learning a little bit about what makes people tick, which is always something I was curious about. But what user experience research does is we leverage a variety of research methods, lots of mixed methods, both qualitative and quantitative, to really tap into and discover unmet needs, pain points, desires, motivations for end users. And we help bridge that gap between what a business, brand, product, or service wants to do to make their revenue. But we're the bridge between those two because, yes, you want to make money, but what do your users really care about? What's really going to resonate with them? And how do we make that happen? So we kind of live at the intersection of business wants, user needs. And basically, I get to ask a lot of questions for a living. I get to do kind of what we're doing here. I get to interact with people, ask a lot of why. We really try to get to the core of why. Well, tell me more about that so that we can truly understand, what the product, service, or brand needs to do to help the companies make the money, but to really meet those user needs. So I've gotten to do that with doctors, healthcare, shadow shopped in Soho, camped out at the Nespresso store down in New York and just watched people try coffee pods and ask them, hey, tell me more about your experience. What made you choose that? What are you going to do next? And how likely are you to do XYZ, to purchase, to try this? And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Didn't know it existed, but here I am.
Was there something that surprised you from this research that you noticed people making decisions based on something that maybe you didn't think that people make decisions based on?
Absolutely. One thing that started to, it's been over 20 years now. And one thing I always look for is that light bulb moment. When they realize that your sole purpose for that 30 to 45 to 60 minutes that you're one-on-one with them, your sole purpose is to listen to them. The way people open up is incredible. People really want to be listened to. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. And it is my job in that moment to listen and to take, basically everything I can and learn from that individual. And eventually, with all of our respondents, we come up with the themes. What do we hear overall? But one-on-one, I'm their captive audience and they just want to be listened to. Someone may not have ever really heard all the ins and outs of a doctor's day-to-day. I feel burdened when I can't do XYZ thing. And I get to say, tell me more about that. And they open up. And when they see that someone's going to listen to them, they're going to tell you things that might really live in here or be internalized. And I get to be on the receiving end of that. And that's a really unique place to find myself. So really finding that someone will listen to them, they're willing to reveal things, that are important to them that maybe they don't tell their peers or their colleagues or their friends or family, but someone who's wanting to help optimize an experience for them or their patients or their customers, they will open up. And that's really fascinating.
So for all the salespeople out there, I've taken some professional sales training because I worked for Sears Home Improvement, selling like countertops and flooring and roofing, all kinds of stuff. So, and also for Andersen Windows. So as actors, we've got all these random jobs in between our next acting job. And what's fascinating about sales training is that very thing of the first thing that they teach you in these professional sales training programs is you got to establish rapport with your customer client to really get to know what is it that what are their frustrations, what are their pain points, what are they dealing with? Because a lot of the times we will just show up and be like, hey, I've got this amazing thing. It does this, it does this, it does this. And ultimately, if you're not understanding where someone's at and what is it that they need and what they want, we waste so much time and energy
and money
trying to communicate to someone when really it just requires us to just ask some questions that really get to know someone. And like you said, allow them to be seen and heard. And what I've learned from my sales training is that most decisions that people make in life are subconscious or unconscious. And this is what marketers and politicians can prey on if, a lot of the science behind the psychology of what makes people decide certain things. Have you noticed that politicians and companies can use this to actually try to manipulate people into doing things that they know maybe are not ethical?
Absolutely. I've been told when I'm reporting data, oh, but that didn't happen that many times. Well, 7 out of 14. So it's something to pay attention to. Yeah, but we'll just tweak this word over here and it won't sound as compelling. So I've been coerced to change messaging sometimes. And I've gone back to my supervisors and said, I don't agree with this. I've actually left roles because it just sort of went against what I felt convicted about. And I can't honestly put my name on something that was going against what the data is speaking. I'm a user advocate. So those respondents are trusting me to relay their information, their data, what they've just trusted me in speaking about. from a very vulnerable place in some cases. And, I wasn't willing to put my name on something that was going against that. So that can be a challenging part in this particular industry, especially I was in consulting for many, many years. I'm now what we call in-house. So I work inside for a company and I run a team of amazing researchers and we're distributed. So we're all over the United States, which is really kind of cool. In this new environment we get to work in, there are a lot of us, and I don't just have to hire here in Dallas. I get to hire people, based on the skills and their backgrounds. So, it's a lot of fun.
What would you say are some of the more the bigger factors in terms of what motivates people to take action or make a decision?
From a user experience standpoint, from the respondent or the customer?
People mostly make decisions to avoid pain or to seek pleasure.
To seek alignment, usually. They're looking for a community connection. And I see, I can tell when people are wanting to say something and maybe when they're pondering, but they want community, they want connection, they want to align with a group of people more so than going against the norm or maybe speaking out. And that is a challenge that I have had to learn to overcome. This role, this industry, my profession has really facilitated a lot of growth in myself, not just career-wise, but really being able to stand firm and say, no, this is actually not only what the data is saying, but this is something that is worth paying attention to. And here's why. You guys can do what you will with the information, but it's my job to relay the truth. So that can be challenging sometimes because you do have to find a delicate way to deliver that back to when you're in consulting back to a client. They're paying you sometimes to validate their hypotheses, and that doesn't always come out right. So,
yeah. And once since you've been like interviewing and asking questions and from like thousands of people in your career, have you noticed anything through that whole process? Has there been like consistent themes or trends on what makes people, like you touched on, people want to be a part of community and feel like they're a part of something that is trusted? Is that something that you would say would correlate from business into personal relationships as well? And what makes people decide to feel safe enough to be with someone else?
Absolutely. I'll see it, it's been a while since I've conducted what we call focus groups, but even in a focus group, when you find someone that will give a head nod towards something you're saying, they're more likely they found someone that will dialogue with them. And I will say, you probably have observed this too, in today's world, it's easy to think you're feeling connected or to think we're connected because we're on all of the social media platforms. We can text, but that's not true connection. Dialogue where people are actively listening to one another and actually having a conversation is actually pretty rare. And that's one thing I've noticed in the last maybe decade in my career is we are doing a lot more remote research like this. So connection, there's kind of this false sense of feeling connected. Mm-hmm. And when you're in person and you are having to look someone in the eye, people don't do that these days. Eye contact is a lost art. And I took an improv class actually as part of my business development when I moved back to Dallas after living in New York for a few years, because as you might know, Colin, living in New York, I mean, you're fast paced. Eye contact, maybe not in an entire day, but that is something that I've just realized in the last decade, going to this remote world and just connected but not connected has really we've suffered. And that's been interesting to see how it has, when you do get people in person, it's almost like they are reconnecting with humanity to a degree. And that's really been interesting, like going back to the office and having to sit in a conference room with people sometimes and sort of reacclimating to being human to human, not in front of a screen.
Why do you think people are so anxious about connecting with other human beings? And why is it so difficult to connect with each other, especially after COVID, where we're now coming back and some people are still at home and some people, have gotten so used to having conversations on Zoom. We've got online dating where you don't really have to have a conversation before you actually have dinner. It's like you can just say, hey, let's hook up, and boom. Like you really don't have to have any social skills really to be able to live life anymore. And it's kind of crazy to just see how when we don't practice this, that when you haven't had conversation practice, it can make you feel like all you want to do is just stay home and watch TV. Crazy.
This resonates because of my experience, even just putting myself out there in a book format. But vulnerability is scary. And, to connect with someone is to let down your guard a little bit or find ways to break down those barriers, even if it's little by little. And it takes practice, especially these days. But I think a lot of people are scared of it, to be vulnerable, to really show who they are.
Scared of what? Why would you say people are so afraid to reveal and be vulnerable who they are?
I would guess a lot of people might not know authentically who they are at their core. They might know, gosh, I like to go running. I love my dog. I do this. They associate with their labels or what they do and kind of how they're associated with what in life versus, but why? What does that mean to you? Why do you think you were drawn to do this? Or why do you love dogs so much? Why do you like to run? Really again, here I am I'm wearing my professional hat right now, but getting to the core. What does that mean to you? Why? What value did that add? Why do you keep doing that? Why haven't you gone back to try this again? And I just don't think we spend enough time really pondering that about ourselves, or again, letting someone talk to us and ask us those questions and listen to us talk about that. When you find that you have someone on a receiving end to listen to you, I just find people light up or they run away. I have a 98-year-old friend. She turns 98 this month, actually. And I was chatting with her a week ago. And I said, at this point in your life, are you reflecting? Like, what do you spend your time thinking about? And she said, I would reflect more, but I don't have anyone to talk to about my memories. And if I do, I'm more likely to remember more. But when I'm sitting here by myself and I don't have anyone to talk to, I don't know what I will remember. So I make it a point to ask her questions. So I probably bug her a lot, but I like to ask why for a living. So I like to do that with my friends and family too.
Well, can I ask you a why question?
Oh, sure.
Can I ask you a vulnerable question?
Bring it on.
So what made you desire to write this book? It's nothing but pavement.
Yeah. To turn the lens on myself was very scary. And the first conversation you and I had, I was talking around about these fiction ideas I had, and you point blank asked me, what about your story? Nope. I don't know about myself. It was just a hard pass.
Yep.
And that's why I knew I needed to do it. It really got me thinking, why not? And that's what I've started doing more is like, well, why would I say no to this? Why? I didn't have any reasons to say no. Because I didn't have to publish it at that point. I wasn't committing to publishing a book. I was committing to starting the process. And I was willing to start the process. And so I talk about that in my book of following the next yes. The next yes for me was, well, why not? And you said, why don't you meet with Tracy? Why don't you guys just see what kind of kind of rapport you guys have? And of course, she was a very amazing person. Unfortunately, we lost Tracy in early April, and she was very dear to both of us. She was a big part of the process for me personally because I got vulnerable with her. We recorded our conversations. She transcribed our conversations, and I wrote from much of what she listened to and transcribed for me. So I do want to just acknowledge that her fingerprints are all over this book as well. Couldn't have really gotten started for sure without Tracy. And then she just kind of let me go. She said, I feel like you do better when I just let you go. And then we'll come back together and debrief. But we were meeting for a while, week over week, for about an hour or so. And I just kind of took off. And it's amazing, again, what happens when you just sort of unlock that vulnerability, find a safe place to talk it out. I did a lot of my writing on the pavement, quite frankly. I used my notes app a lot out on my runs. But I'm probably getting into the process a little ahead of where you wanted to go.
Yeah. So the name of the book, it's Nothing But Pavement. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it's a metaphor for your love for running and how it applies to some of the obstacles that runners may come across on their longer runs, and how do we stay focused and motivated, especially on marathons that are incredibly long, incredibly strenuous, similar to some of the experiences we have in life. Tell us about how the title of the book came about, and a little more about why you wrote the book, and essentially how it correlates to the metaphor of running.
Absolutely. So going kind of back to the theme of authenticity, and I talk about this in the early chapters in the book, when I found myself divorced at 27 with no kids, that did not align with what I call in the book my cultural life script. My cultural life script would have determined that by 27, I should be married with 2 kids and living the American dream in a house with all these things. So imagine my surprise when that didn't happen. All my life, that was kind of the vision, the path that I was on was what I call in the book, the path of should. We should, we should, we should. So I was with blinders on that path. And I had never really looked around me. So the metaphor is, this is my path of pavement here, but it's just pavement. There's so many other ways we can go in life, but I was so focused on the pavement. And sometimes the pavement's where we need to be for that period of time because we don't have the capacity or the tools yet, or we're not aware of the access we have to other things to kind of bring us back out and kind of take a look before we choose a path. And for me, that was the first time I was decoupled from my identity with something, someone's wife, someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone's student. I didn't know who I was on my own. And it was a really important lesson I needed to learn. And, in my career, I just find lived experience is so valuable. You can read about people's experiences, but to share lived experiences with somebody is something that I value and I wanted to share. It's weird to think that I've lived enough life to have some lived experience to share with people, but here I am. And if for nobody else but my daughter, I wanted to finish this book. Imposter syndrome is real. I did almost succumb to letting it take this book away from me, but I used a lot of the tools that I put in the book to get to that finish line. But Layla, my daughter, is my primary why. We talk about the why in the book, finding your primary why. Even if for today, it's just, I have my sights set on, I want to own my own home one day. If that's your why, that's a great why, because it will get you up the next day. It will, at least help you put some path before you, some milestones to achieve so that you can hit that goal.
And in terms of some of the different chapters and some of the highlights of the book, what would you like to share with our audience? Are some of the highlights that inspired you to create each chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. So I leaned on a few things that I have felt help me. I think there's a lot that we consume in bite-sized pieces on social media, and they don't often go into the how. But how do I do that? They'll introduce you to a concept, but how do I apply that to my life? And what I wanted to do is try to bring that enough of that tool so that you can then take and go find the thing that works for you. For example, the better you know yourself, what are your tendencies? What are you most likely to do in these scenarios? And sometimes we don't know why we have these physical feelings, whether it's an aversion. I don't know what that is. I just don't know what that feeling means. And people say, trust your gut. Well, what does that mean? You have to figure out what that means for you. So I give you some tools and tricks. I'm not going to give them all away here, but if you kind of dig in, there are some resources that I give you access to that help you kind of at least pay attention. And that's kind of a theme of pay attention to that. You've been here before. That feeling in your gut, where were you the last time you felt that? And maybe you can sort of make a connection to, what does that mean right now? Am I nervous or am I just excited? Starting to pay attention to yourself, get to know yourself. And I know that might sound cheesy to some people, but you have to get to know yourself before you can be vulnerable and get to know other people.
Yeah. And when you talk about the imposter syndrome being real, it's, I definitely experienced that when I first went out to Hollywood, going to these auditions and walking into these rooms and seeing all these other actors. And it's like, well, that actor, I've seen him on that TV show and that movie. Why in the world would they hire me? What am I even doing in this room? And when we first chatted about what this book could turn into, as you mentioned, that imposter syndrome thing came up where it was like, well, why would anyone care about what I was going to write in this book?
Yep.
And because so many people that obviously we all have our doubts and our worries about whatever it is that we do. Is it going to resonate with someone? Are they going to care? Is it going to matter to people? What was it that got you over that hump of actually just saying, you know what?
Yeah.
Some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it. Some people aren't going to care. I'm just going to do this from a place of me wanting to share this with people that I care about. What was it for you that allowed you to get over that hump that maybe you could share with our audience, for anyone who maybe experience these feelings of imposter syndrome?
No, that's a great question. And yes, she's a beast. She's real. And encouragement from people like you definitely helps. But if you don't really know authentically who you are at your core, it's going to get the best of you. So having that primary why, and again, it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. My daughter, I couldn't tell my daughter I started a book and didn't finish it. Quite frankly, I wasn't going to do that. I like her to be able to see mommy do hard things. And this was hard. And I'm putting a lot out there that one day I hope she will read and just realize mommy's not just mommy, she's a human too. And that's important for her to know. Before I was a mom, look at all the stuff that transpired and that I overcame or that I pushed through and that I did. And that was important for me to gift to her. But in that, if there is even just one other person that's going to take that and say, you know what, I did find myself at a crossroads. I did find this path to purpose off of this path of should. I've already had people tell me I'm looking at retirement, but I still have a few years left. I'm kind of at a crossroads, and this tool is helping me kind of really deliberate what I need to do next. And I couldn't receive a greater compliment than that. And that was someone at the book launch last week that had already started reading the book, So pushing through that, finding something that gives you your purpose. And again, it can be something little. If you just don't know, it doesn't have to be this grand thing. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to find this grand goal. What's going to get you up tomorrow? What is something that you care about that you want to do and just haven't done yet? Why haven't you done that? That might be your purpose. That might be your why, even if it's for the next year to get you to that next thing. So for me, it's definitely knowing who my why was that I wanted to just push through and do this for. But at the end of the day, it was also for me. I found this authentic part of myself that didn't exist before I was 27, or maybe she did. I just didn't have access to realize, all of these things that I was capable of doing. And so kind of the book is a kind of proof of life to me that, I can do hard things, as they say.
And what advice would you give someone who's thinking about writing a book, but who may have the same thoughts that you did a year ago, where it's like, I want to write a book, but who's going to read it? How am I going to do it? Who's going to buy it? What would you tell people who are in that same position right now?
This might sound scary, but talk about it. Share with your friends. The day I committed to this, I went to dinner with some friends and I told them I'm writing a book. No, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to finish it. I didn't have a date yet, on by this time, because it's a process. It took some time. But talk about it. That helps hold you accountable. When people would ask me, how's the book writing? And I was in my stuck mode for about 6 months. I didn't want them to ask me about it, but I needed them to. And I'm so glad they did. It did help me push through and say, I'm going to finish this. Next time they ask me, I'm going to tell them I'm done, or I'm going to say I'm working on this chapter, or, I leave brunch and go, I'm going to go home and write, and having that accountability is very helpful. Talk about it. And if you're having the writer's block thing, I think sometimes it gets romanticized that you have this idyllic setting by a window and it's peaceful and you've got coffee and candles. Not always, for me, sometimes I'm stopping during a run and just tapping things out of my notes on an airplane, just tapping things out on my notes that I can expand on later. You will find kind of your rhythm. It definitely helped to have Tracy get me started because someone's sort of helping. She's asking me questions, and most of it we ended up actually writing about. There was some stuff that we said, okay, that was for this initial part. I don't think this is as relevant, and that's just part of the process. So talk about it. Find someone to help hold you accountable and just start writing. And it doesn't have to be fancy.
And the process, if you don't mind me asking about the actual way in which Tracy worked with you, is the same way that my publisher for my book, Melissa, worked with me, where, and this may be helpful to people out there who are thinking about writing a book, where, the idea of sitting down to a blank page or a blank screen on Microsoft Word and just like trying to start to type something, it can be very intimidating. But what Melissa, my publisher, did, and what Tracy did for you, was first have that conversation about what are some of the most impactful moments in your life that you think you could draw some themes and some lessons from that we could turn into chapters. And then from there, Melissa and what Tracy did for you was have a phone conversation where we record the conversation. It was transcribed. So for me, Melissa then emailed me a Google Doc of our whole conversation which allowed me to go in and I saw it was all my words and all the words were there. And then I just went in and started editing and rearranging and moving and then going online to substantiate some of the things that I had read or watched a TED Talk. And so this is what really helped me get through this process. If you could share with some of our listeners about what that process was like for you, and did you find that helpful and beneficial? And what was it that made you stop for 6 months?
Oh man. Yes, that process was helpful because getting started was probably the biggest hurdle. There were hurdles, but definitely that biggest one was getting started and just having someone on the other side kind of just asking questions and tell me more about that. Let's dig into that a little bit. And then I found that my dedicated writing time was sitting down, like knowing where I was going to go, to sit down and go through that document, expand on some things, pulling back out some journals, to kind of expand on things like that. It was cathartic in a lot of ways. The 6 months, I got to a point, I was probably a third of the way through the book at that point, and just wondering who's going to read. That was the question. Who's going to read this? Who are you to share this with somebody? Who's going to pick this up and read it? And, you and Tracy both. Well, if one person picks it up and it makes a difference, does it matter? And then I kept hearing that, one person. So I'm writing to one person. If you're that person, I would love to hear from you. But that's honestly all it took, was me believing that one person would, at least one person would pick that book up and get something out of it. But yeah, I sat on it for 6 months because of that, just being stuck. And the big theme of my book is helping you get unstuck. And I did use a lot of my tools to sort of push through this thing. I also think, and I'm going to just say this because I think some of the social media culture does get to us. Well, I don't have a big platform. My followers are my friends that I know. And, I haven't really done much work to expand that. And that's okay. Those people can find you, again, talk about it. Find people to help you talk about it. And thank you. And, the right people will find their way to the book.
Awesome. And I just want to say a huge acknowledgement to Tracy for helping you work through all of that. And our condolences to Tracy and her family. As you mentioned, she passed away just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just so sad to hear. But Tracy, we honor you and we love you and we appreciate you helping Shannon get this book out. And Shannon, the book is available right now on Amazon, right?
Correct. It's on paperback and ebook and Amazon, and we hope to have it out in other distributors later this summer. Working on the audio book as well. So for folks that would rather listen, no judgment at all. I love my audiobooks. So we'll hope to have that out to you later this year as well.
Okay. And just because there's, obviously so many books out there, what are some unique things about your book that you would love for your audience, for our audience here to know about, that you think that this could benefit them? What are some takeaways that you feel people could use to implement into their life to overcome some of their own challenges?
Yeah, I think it really does. It really helps you kind of just reevaluate yourself a little bit with where you're at. So whatever's made you pick up that book, or somebody has gifted it to you. I've heard people saying they know somebody that they want to gift it to based on some of the things they've read in it. I intentionally did kind of cut it off at 12 chapters to make it an easier read, because Tracy and I did agree that she could hand it to her daughter, who was a teenager at the time, or her empty nester best friend. And that's kind of the goal, is just helping people in various stages of life, whether it's finding your next whatever that is that you want to achieve, whether it's I'm stuck and I don't know what to do and I don't know why I'm stuck. I do really encourage the reader to evaluate yourself. Like, again, going back to what are your tendencies? Yes, there's a lot of cliche tests you can take, but some of those have some merit. Enneagram's a popular one, but I will say, after I did take the official Enneagram test, I learned so much about, that's why I do that. Okay, there's a reason behind that. And it's a little bit validating, and it can help you just accept more about who you are, versus always feeling like you have to change something. And in that, you can find some growth. So there are some tools in there to just help push through. And there's some humanness, I've shared some very, personal stories about just sort of, my motivations and how I came to realize that and how that served me later. So hopefully you'll find inspiration in some of the tools that I give you to just sort of find your way to that next place or getting unstuck from where you are.
And the subtitle is
Shedding the Should and Training for When the Path Before You is Not Always the Path You Choose. So it's kind of a playful way of thinking of this as a training guide, because as runners, we like a training plan if we're going to achieve that finish line. So I wanted to give you a training plan, so to speak, for life, to sort of get you to that next big finish line.
Awesome. Awesome. Are you planning on doing any more? You had a book launch party in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, last week?
It was last Wednesday. Yes.
And for, I was obviously having this took a year, and now that you were at the party and you've got this book out and people are actually coming up to you, tell us about that experience. Because when I wrote my book and did my first book launch, I was like, holy crap, this is real. And it's almost, it's kind of scary, but after you put it out there, you start to experience yourself in a whole new way, as I am now officially an author, which completely helped elevate my experience of myself. And it's just one of the most amazing, exciting feelings to do something like that.
Yes. I actually read an excerpt from the book during the party, and it was from my book. And I was kind of standing there going, these are my words, and people are listening to my words. I'm holding this physical thing that I did and sharing a big piece of myself with these people around me who know me. And there are other people who are going to be experiencing this book who don't know me yet. And that was a little bit surreal. And I think that was part of the imposter syndrome, is not knowing who this book is going to land in the hands of, but that's ultimately the goal. There's a saying that says, until you publish the book belongs to you, the author. But once you put it out there, the book belongs to the reader. So I kind of had that in mind that day, is, it's a little bit of me gifting this book, these words, myself, to whoever it's going to find its way to. And it's a pretty surreal experience, but it's awesome.
And that first part of the subtitle, Shedding the Should. Mm-hmm. What are some shoulds that you grew up with that you felt that were constraining or confining, that you felt that you wanted to talk about? And what shoulds do you talk about in the book?
Absolutely. It's a great question. In fact, the original kind of working title was The Path of Should, because it resonated with Tracy. It resonated with me, and we kept kind of going with that theme. And she would ask me, well, how did you should on yourself? For me, it was more of a timeline. I should be this by the time I'm this. Mm-hmm. And so every time I hit this, and one of the chapters is called, milestones and perceived failures. Every time I hit this milestone and didn't really hit that milestone at the time or the age or with the things in my possession that I should have had, it felt like a failure. And then, kind of that gray cloud over my head felt darker and darker. And I lived that way for a little while. And so shedding the should was an important piece that I wanted to make sure made it somewhere into that title, because I think many people can relate to, you have this inner voice maybe, or you think it yourself, just, I should be, I'm 27. I should have these things. I should have 2 kids. And when it's not your reality, you feel like you came up short somehow, or where did I miss the mark? What did I do differently? Was I not enough? Was I too much somewhere along the way? And we can spiral. And it's so important to realize that you're not a failure. These are just artificial milestones that, for whatever reason, whether it's culturally, society, we put on ourselves. And I think it's important that we get rid of those. So it's time. It's 2024.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say you're most proud of about the book?
Besides finishing it? Yeah. I wrote nonfiction. I'm a fiction writer. So to actually write nonfiction and tell my own story instead of other people's stories, that wasn't something I ever set out to do, quite frankly. So it was kind of a surprising goal that I found in this pursuit of writing my first book. I had no idea my first book would be about me.
And now that the book is about you and you've got some of this spotlight right aimed at your direction, what would you say are some of the things that you've had to contend with in terms of, even just doing this right now?
Yeah.
You said you're not used to necessarily speaking and being comfortable doing something like this. So first off, kudos to you. I'm proud of you for being here.
Thank you.
What is it that you have had to overcome yourself in terms of contending with that spotlight being shined on you?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard this fairly recently in a theme. So it's just kind of interesting that I'm hearing this a lot. Like, nobody cares, you know? I even had a friend say that when I was in New York, actually sharing, why I was going through my imposter syndrome. She said, not to sound, kind of crass, but no one cares,
Yeah.
If you don't publish the book, that table doesn't even know. They don't care. So that was helpful. I mean, when you pass a certain age, maybe age, with age comes a little bit more wisdom. But, when you do stop caring so much about performing for other people who do not care, there's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah, definitely. Good answer. Tracy Francis is asking, what advice would you give to someone who does not have a huge social media following in pursuing publishing and getting your book out there? Thanks so much, and congrats on publishing the book.
Thank you, Tracy. I don't have a big following right now, quite frankly. I mean, by most standards, I don't have a big following.
How many people follow you on Instagram?
On my personal account and my public account, they're about the same. They're in like the 160s, I think. 160 period, like not 160,000, but but they're following me and they're still following me.
And I'm sure they're very loyal, and it's not the number. It's more of, and you mentioned this earlier, there's connection. Qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. And I'm sure it's not necessarily the quantity, it's more so the quality of the people that you are engaging with.
Correct.
And interacting with. And that is the most important thing about all of this.
Yeah. And for me, if money's your motivator, that's fine. That's not my personal motivator. And so I think that your motivation will sort of direct kind of where you end up going with your pursuits. But for me, publishing a book is not my sole source of income. It's nice to have, an income that comes of this. It's not my primary driver. So I think that also helps, is really kind of being authentic to why do you want to do it? If you're performing for an audience, is that authentically who you are? Maybe it is, and that's fine, but that's not me.
Well, I'm proud of you for sticking with it and staying connected to your dream. And now that your dream is out there for everyone to benefit from, I would encourage you guys all to go to someone was kind enough to put the link here.
Oh, thank you.
From LinkedIn. So you can click on that and purchase the book. So it's available on Amazon, and eventually it's going to be available on Apple, iBooks and Barnes & Noble, and pretty much everywhere, right?
Yes, that's the goal.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, is there anything else you'd like to share with my audience about what was it that was the motivating factor, or what is it that you feel could benefit people the most from reading? It's not about pavement, or it's nothing but pavement.
Nothing but pavement. Yes. I mean, it really is. Wherever you are right now, think of that as the metaphor of wherever you are, it's just this, and it's probably temporary. Will this matter in 5 years? So if it's something that you're percolating over and you can look 5 years down the road, think back, is this going to matter in 5 years? Me sitting with my imposter syndrome, that wasn't getting me anywhere. It was something I had to work through as part of my process. But I knew I had something to finish. And so really, think about your why. Why am I doing this? And you may find that maybe this isn't the thing for me to be pursuing right now or ever. So sit with that for a minute. And it's okay to not have a clear answer. Find the things that will help. Whenever you do find yourself in a moment of clarity, what are you doing? When have you found that moment of clarity? And maybe just sit with it. Be okay sitting in the uncomfortable for a little bit. It's okay.
Well, congrats, Shannon. And now I would love to ask you some questions about your favorite movies.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite movie of all time?
I love a movie that will really tap into a variety of emotions. And the movie that does that for me, no matter what, is Steel Magnolias. It has an all-star cast. It's got the range of emotions. If it's on, I'm watching it. And I'm probably quoting every line of the movie. And even better, if there's someone that can banter with me and quote it right back.
Are there any shoulds in that movie that someone had to shed?
Oh my goodness. I think Shelby grappled with whether she should be getting married, right at the beginning.
Yeah. Awesome. What is your favorite movie from when you were growing up?
Oh goodness. I was a sucker for, and this is why I think my parents ended up getting us a dog. When I saw the first Benji movie, I was begging for a dog from the time, we saw that movie. I love the Homeward Bounds, the Incredible Journeys, anything with dogs. But ultimately, Troop Beverly Hills. That's one of the ones that I can remember where I was the first time I saw it. I will still sit down and watch that. I can't wait to share it with my daughter when she's a little older. So
It's called True Beverly Hills.
Troop Beverly Hills. Yes.
Trip.
If you haven't seen it, I'm challenging you right now to go watch
Who's
it.
in it?
That's Shelley Long from Cheers. So
Okay.
she's the main character. And there's several. So the girls at that age, I mean, they were all adolescents, but they're all, you'll recognize all of them. I don't know their names off the top of my head, but it's a good one.
All right. Awesome. And what is your favorite romantic comedy?
When Harry Met Sally. I love witty banter. I love their back and forth. Billy Crystal, my goodness. Yeah, that's tried and true.
Absolutely. Great answer. How about what is your favorite comedy?
Oh my goodness. My formula for a good comedy, again, I love witty banter. I love subtle one-liners that maybe not everyone's going to catch, but I'm going to eat them up with a spoon. So think of things like, Swingers or Ocean's 11, like that witty banter and everything. But I always come back to, again, like All-Star Cast. I'm a chick flick sucker. So Mean Girls or Bridesmaids. Those are my go-tos.
Okay. I haven't seen Mean Girls, but I think they're coming out with a new one.
It's a good one. It's a musical. I don't know if we need a musical.
Okay. All right.
I think Mean Girls on its own was good, but I will still see it.
Other than me, of course, who's your favorite actor?
Of course.
Or male character in a movie?
I love John Cusack. I think he's a little bit underrated, but I love his character in Must Love Dogs with Diane Lane. He's like this hopeless romantic. He's heartbroken, but he still puts himself out there. And I don't know, it's endearing.
Did you know I'm in that movie?
You're at the beginning, aren't you?
Yes.
You are. Oh my goodness. So yes, along with Something Borrowed, that is my all-time favorite movie.
Yeah, I play a model, and me and my model girlfriend, at the very beginning of the movie, they're talking about relationships and how did you meet, and I play this kind of arrogant model jerky guy, and they're talking about, yeah, well, how do you find people? How do you connect them? And I come on there, I'm like, yeah, well, what's the problem? And my hot girlfriend, of course, is standing right there, and it's like, of course, it's so easy that just models just meet people and relationships and everything is amazing, right? Like, yes, it's just totally ridiculous. But yeah, that was actually one of my first roles. So
that is so funny. Yeah, I remember that now.
And who's your favorite actress or female character?
So female character, and I think since becoming a mom, Emma Thompson's character in Love Actually. She's the mom who's sewing her kid's costume while her best friend is going through a crisis and she's picking up the phone. She's showing up for her kids while possibly being betrayed by her husband. And that's something that, I can relate to. And I love that character. But I mean, of course, you got to go with the classics like, gosh, Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, I'll watch pretty much anything that they're in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, in my book, you are a movie star. And I am so proud of you for just sticking with this and sharing your message with us, and appreciate your time being here. Can't wait for everyone to read this book, and would love you guys and encourage you, if you wouldn't mind, it really helps authors with comments on Amazon. So after you read the book, I'd love it if you would to go on to Amazon and write a little review of Shannon's book to help just spread the word, get it out there, and so the world can benefit more from shedding the shoulds and just having a more fulfilling and more abundant life.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. I would love to hear your thoughts as you're reading. Don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, wherever you want to find me, and let me know what you're thinking, what's resonating with you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And you can reach out to Shannon on Instagram at Shannon Graf Creative.
Wonderful. Thank you, Colin. This was fun.
You're welcome, Shan. Great to see you. Congratulations, and
Appreciate it.
talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care, Shan.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And again, just huge accomplishment. So proud of this. And it just goes to show you that if you got an idea for a book and you're interested in putting this out there into the world, that it's not as hard as you think it is. A lot of the times we think that we can't do something just because we don't know the actual process. But once you start to understand and just learn what the process actually is, you can break it down into individual steps. And the first step, like what Shannon talked about, was just have the conversation. Just start asking questions. Talk to people who have written books. YouTube is a great way to just start researching what it takes to write a book, to get it up there with Amazon. KDP, it's called. That's their self-publishing platform, where once you finish the book, you can go onto Fiverr and have someone format the book to then have it uploaded onto Amazon KDP. And there's, again, so many tutorials on YouTube that if you're interested in writing a book, it's not as easy, or it's not as difficult as you may think it is. But the difficult part is, because it is, like we were talking about, a marathon more than a sprint. It's important that you surround yourself with people who keep you motivated, who keep you accountable, as she mentioned, and get connected to your why. I think that was something really powerful that she said. And it's really important for us to remember, we got to stay connected to our why. And for her, it's her daughter. For myself, I've got a ton of whys. But every time that I face a challenge where I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling like there's no hope and I feel like I want to give up, I just remember and really get connected to why I started this in the beginning. And you know what? Things change. If you find out that your why is just not as strong as what it used to be, you know what? You can be agile and you can pivot. But the last thing we want to do is be older on in life and look back in our life and wish we would have tried. The worst thing in life is not taking action on opportunities that we had while we had those opportunities. And I think it's so important to just give things a shot. Like Shannon said, not as many people care about what we think anyway. So you might as well just do what you love and focus on the things that light you up, that inspire you. Because one of the greatest things I've ever done was to write my book. And as you can tell from Shannon, it's been an amazing experience for her. So highly encourage you guys to just look into that and see what that's like. And lastly, just wanted to say again, just a mention of Tracy Seeley, who passed away last few weeks ago. I knew her for a few years, and she was so kind and generous to help edit some of the things that I was working on as well. And just sending lots of love and condolences to her family. And again, this is all about leaving a legacy, and just it's amazing, and I'm honored to be a part of Shannon's legacy and so many other people's legacy in terms of supporting people and fulfilling on their dreams and their goals as well. And if you're interested in getting help or support with whatever it is that you are working on, you can email me at info@colinegglesfield.com. I do some personal coaching, and I do help executives and leaders and speakers become better speakers so that you can get up in front of audiences with more confidence and more clarity to deliver your message, whether that's if you're an author, or if you're wanting to become a paid public speaker, or if you are in any sort of leadership capacity where you've got to get up in front of a group of people and essentially inspire people to take action on something. It's not always easy, but a lot of the things that we've learned in acting classes as professional actors, it can really help us, it has helped me. And this is what I teach and what I consult with people that I work with in a communications consultancy, where I share with you some of the techniques and insights and strategies and awareness of how to connect with people authentically. And like we were talking today about connecting with people from that authentic place, where most of the time when we meet people, it can be on that surface level. And I think we know what that's like when you're stuck at a cocktail party, just talking, small talk. It can be annoying. And what I like to do is just cut right through that and ask some some inquiring questions that help cut through that superficiality and cut right to the core of who people are. And with my Beyond Impact class, this is what we talk about, and this is what I teach. And what we do is we actually break down a scene from a movie. And what this does is I help you get connected to the objective and the intention of that piece of communication. And then we do an analysis, the who, what, when, where, why. And just by doing this analysis will help you get clear and connected to the reason why you are showing up to have that conversation. And this is incredibly effective for giving public speeches, for giving presentations, for having one-on-one conversations. And it's one thing to know this information. It's another thing to put it into practice. So in Beyond Impact, I give the opportunity to everyone in the class, because we do this live on Zoom once a week for 4 weeks. And I give the opportunity for you to practice the actual communication and how to apply these strategies and insights into your own communication. And again, it's one thing to know this, it's another thing to put it into practice. And it's been incredibly effective. And it is the same techniques and strategies that Academy Award winning actors use in order to be able to deliver world-class performances. So if you're interested in learning more about Beyond Impact, you can email me at info@colinigglesfield.com, or you can go to beyondimpactmastery.com. Again, that's beyondimpactmastery.com. And there's a whole information page there about what the class is all about and how it can benefit you and becoming man, my mouth is dry, becoming a better, more impactful and confident speaker. So that's it, ladies and gents. Again, thanks to everyone who came out to the Inspire Retreat. And again, we're going to be announcing the next one here shortly. But in the meantime, I just wish you guys my best. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you, I believe, next Monday. So stay tuned for that. And thanks again for being here. Shannon, congratulations. Proud of you and glad to be a part of all of this. So take care, everyone. I'll see you all next time.